I have been a professional tumbleweed. That means I have just basically roamed around the planet, had a great time. Also did an awful lot of personal growth and development along the way. I acquired a lot of skills. I've been in a number of industries.
Welcome to Obehi podcast, where we talk about small business tips, the power of your story, and your narrative. Are you a small business owner, a content entrepreneur, or you simply want to earn income online? Then join A Classics Academy, an educational platform that provides an online learning experience around the topic of storytelling, content creation, and online businesses. I am Obehi Ewafo, author of the storytelling series for small businesses and content creators. You can check out any of the books in the series on Amazon. Now let's get started with today's episode.
Pretty much anything that didn't include blood, as long as it didn't, I was in it. But what I've loved to do the most, I know, right? Was promotions, marketing, brand promotions, and messaging. I've had a knack for wordsmithing since I was a child, and now I've parlayed that into work as a project consultant, helping people to find their avatar, craft their message so it's compelling, and write books that are page turning.
All right, first of all, help me understand this. How did you get into book writing? That is very important. Let's start from there.
It's we could go way back, but I won't. I was interviewed one time by a ghostwriter, and it struck me like a big yes. That's what I call it, a big yes. And I was like, wow, how do you get into that? And it sort of unfolded for me as an opportunity came up to work in alignment with somebody in self-publishing. And then he gave me a shot at being an editor. And then he saw what I had a talent for, which is story development and content strategy, and giving my clients and our authors an angle so that they could differentiate themselves in the marketplace. Because I'm a marketing minded writer first, and I always have been. So for years and years, I owned a promotional products company, for instance, and I knew that global brands needed a way to stand out. Don't just run to Vistaprint and get another mug for your event. And so the creativity in helping a brand to differentiate, be remarkable and memorable has always been in my blood. I think I was born this way. When I was a kid, I used to love the show Bewitched, and I couldn't master twinkling my nose to make stuff happen. I wanted to be in advertising like her husband. I just knew it since I was a little kid.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So now, what do you enjoy? Which part do you enjoy most in your writing? Okay, now of course we are moving to advertising just now, but since you are also a writer, it's interesting to know what you feel because people like to know what is going on in the mind of the writer. So, which part of the writing process do you enjoy the most?
I love interviewing people. I've had 9 shows myself, whether it was TV or radio, or it was called internet talk radio before podcast was invented. And I love interviewing stories out of people. It's a natural knack I have. And that's actually one way to get a book done in about 30 days is that I interview the story out of someone, get it down on paper and create a manuscript. And from idea to ISBN, they're a published author. So it's the interviewing part that I enjoy, but then the crafting of the story and resetting it. AI can't do what I do. I'm just saying. There's no way because the seeing the big picture and then pulling these pieces out and weaving in the story, finding the message, finding the meaning, and then bringing that to the forefront using paintbrush words so it becomes alive. It's illustrated by the choice of words that you use. Now, you know that about storytelling. You want to use emotions that convey. Well, I
Absolutely, absolutely. This is what we talk about often, also on our LinkedIn audio live. Emotion is actually what says because if you are not do using emotion, you are just throwing out data out there, which can actually be valid, but you're not really touching the human string, the heart string that is going to make somebody what?
yes. Yeah.
that is where it happens.
Yeah. And some people think they don't have a story or they don't want to tell their story. And so I love this part too, because I can take very dry content and bring it to life, even if they don't want to insert their own story into it. I can find ways to do that, to bring quotes or illustrative examples, case studies. These kind of things help them to get their message across without bearing their soul. Not everything has to be a soul bearing experience.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Now tell me, kind of a curiosity of mine. When did you realize that this work that you are doing within marketing and book stuff is what you really wanted to do? I mean, when did it happen to you?
I would say 6 years ago, probably, when it became a profession. Prior to that, it was me hoping that someday I could get a book published, and I didn't know how. And then I say stay focused on the what, and the how will make itself known. And that actually happened for me, where I met someone who saw some talent in me and gave me a chance. And then I published my first book. It's, in 5 days. I wrote it in 5 days. And I was inspired by my own ability, I guess you could say, to really hone in and be succinct and get this puppy done right on time for Mother's Day, which is what it was for. And I was like, if I can do this, I can do this for other people and really help them to create a book, a foundational piece to all their marketing in the future so that they can stand out with their brand out too.
That's interesting. I love that. So the experience you had in that first publication has been inspiring for you, right?
Yes.
Hmm. All right, let's talk about the marketing of books now because a lot of authors out there that are listening to us, of course, they are fascinated about this particular part of it. Okay, some don't know that they need to market their work for them to get sales, no? And
Yeah.
of course, they're not going to be surprised that the sales are not coming in. So tell me, give me a kind of a background about your how you navigate those areas.
Okay, what I want to start with is a little bit before they've published their book and are thinking about marketing, just a little bit before that. It all starts with a great title. And I want to give you an example of what typically happens for writers is they get hung up on the how of what they do, and the reader doesn't care how you get them from point A to point B. They just want to know what the results are. And one of the examples I wanted to share with you was Willie J is in the music industry, and he has been through a lot and harsh setbacks. And he discovered, of course, that resilience was his thing. That's how you bounce back, right? It's resilience. It's what it is. And so he wanted to title his book Resilience is Brilliance. And I said, there's probably only, I don't know, a couple 100,000 books about resilience. Let's find an angle that makes it a little different because your client, your ideal reader, that young buck coming up in the music industry, isn't sitting at home thumping his head saying, I need more resilience. He's wanting to know how he can succeed. He's wanting to know how to master this music industry. And so what we did was we revisited what matters, the mottos, those things about Willie that could be relatable to his reader. And he said, well, Lonnie, I always say, never stop winning, never stop winning. And I said, that's exactly what they want. So let's title it Never Stop Winning. And then he said, yeah. And then because they know his name, the subtitle is The Willie J Journey, or Willie J's Journey. That's it, Willie J's Journey. That book's going to come out in the fall, by the way. So it,
Interesting.
yeah, it really is. And the process of naming a book is something you asked me my favorite part. I have a lot of them. And I really think now that you've asked, I think this might be it. I absolutely love naming and one-liners and domain names and catchy things so that people can remember you when you're on the air. And he has a website called Pure Mission Entertainment, and it's Pure Mission ENT. If he's on a podcast, nobody's going to remember that. And I said, listen, we got to get a website for you. You want to be continue to be a keynote speaker. How about if we do a little double wordplay and register a website called bookwilliej.com. That way your book can appear on there and it doubles as your speaker page. Oh, he loved that. So
That's
I
brilliant,
really
of course. That's
thank
brilliant.
you. So it's simple to remember. And that's what I love to do is help people to stand out with their brand out, give them angles to give them edges that they need in the marketplace to differentiate themselves. There you go.
Mhm. So you said those are important because they help you in the marketing afterwards, right?
Yeah, they really do. You've got to start with begin with the end in mind. And
Mhm.
as a story development person and content strategist, I always find out what's your big picture and let's work backwards from there. I call it engineering celebrity. You know, not everybody wants to be on stage or sell their courses or be a consultant. So some of the books that my favorite books are memoirs, and that's a completely different angle but you still want to have it speak to one particular reader. So that's the marketing part that I love about it. So you want to have a theme also. That's one of the ways that your book can really hook readers. Memoirs. My client right now is 85 years old. That's a lot of stories. Okay. It's
Mhm.
a lot. And
Mhm.
and a lot of it is 32 years in the Coast Guard. Well, we could write a book about the military, but the real thing is the theme is how bad things turned out good. And he's got that over and over again. It's like God's been watching out for this guy. And circumstances went this way and it made him end up over here and it was better for him. Like that's the theme. So you want to find a theme for your book to just spew stories that don't have a connecting thread is first of all, it's hard to place in a category where people can find you and know that that book is for them. But secondly, it's kind of all over the map. You know what? Even celebrity memoirs have a limited shelf life. They really do.
And
So
why?
why? There's only so much to learn about Oprah. Okay. I mean, it's a limited shelf life book. It's not like Who Moved My Cheese. That book has been out forever, and that's a business book. It's only 80 pages, and they've sold millions of copies because it's relevant and useful in the business and marketing world, and they continue to market it. So, I granted there are two different books, but a memoir is even a celebrity memoir really needs to have an angle that will inspire if they're going to use it that way. If they just want to have a legacy book, that's cool. It doesn't have to be a teaching book, but you want to be able to share your stories in a way like these vignettes with this 85-year-old and all of his cool things. He was a blimp pilot. He was a Formula 4 race car driver. He was, behind enemy lines in Vietnam. Like there's a lot of story here. And that thread of how things went bad, but they turned out good is universal.
All right,
So
tell me something, Lori. Now, you are writing. Okay, you said that your client now is like 80-something years old. Now you get a client like
85.
this, 85, though.
Yeah.
Now you have the story in front of you. I don't know. Maybe you have to watch a lot of tapes. No, you have to read maybe books or documentary articles about this individual, and like you are going to write a book about him. Which means you have a lot of information in front of you. How do you double down to the angle that is going to say at the end of the day? Help me go through that process.
Sure. In this case, it was interviews that were recorded. Story after story after story has been recorded. So I have 30 or 40 hours of recording it that creates transcripts for me to go through. And then with knowing that I have this thread to work with, how things that turned out good from bad, helps me to take each of those stories and place it in a particular way so that it's not a chronological, I was born and this happened and then I grew up and this happened. No. I write stories that are kind of a mismatch, make it like there's a thread back here and it shows up again here. So the reader goes, oh, wow, this is really like, you never know what's going to happen next, but it all
A
makes
piece of
sense.
chocolate.
Yes. Yes. Now, I love that you asked me this question. I wrote a book. This guy came to me with 200 books in his library. 200 books.
Ooh.
He paid me extra to become a subject matter expert, an SME. So guess what? You'll never guess the topic. You would never think it could be interesting. I know I didn't, but I'm so proud of this. The topic was the game of solitaire, the card game, and the history behind it all, the names and the games, and how the foundational layouts changed and why. And really the whole compelling question that started this guy asking and looking at all these books, 200 of them. And I had to take all that in. And then I did what you suggested or thought I would be doing, which is go out. I looked at documentaries, I did deeper research, and I'm so proud of this. I actually found missing pieces that had not been put together by any authors so far, and solved some of the mystery behind the name Las Vegas Solitaire. Because
Super.
I know,
Super.
right? I love research. It's so yeah, it was a big job, but it's a great read. I found out that gangsters are involved and a lot of the myths, they're just so yeah, and then titling it, the real deal about solitaire, the man, myth, and money behind it all, like, you gotta read this. So
That's
yeah,
interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting. All right, but how do you, who are you really working with in sort of your client? Tell me a bit about who are your sort of target audience that you work with in writing book for them, for example.
Creative nonfiction is my thing. I have helped fiction writers to get their books done. Um, Very proud of that because it's not really my genre, but because I can come in and see things from a third party, I can help them to craft their fiction story, but mostly it's nonfiction. And so that can range from self-help, inspirational, and memoir. And lately, what I've loved to do are the memoirs of the oldies. Because, TikTok, look at the clock. It's time to get that story done. Leave your legacy. Don't die with your story in you. And I
Oh, how
really
much I
love,
love that.
yeah, yeah, that's my favorite.
Because you're touching story now, no? That is really what it is, no? Because you don't need to, I usually say to people, you have come to life, no? You came with a baggage. You don't need to go just with the say box that you came with unopened. Because if you didn't say it, if you didn't if you didn't download the information you came with so that other people can see it, that is a closed box. You don't want to do that. You are cheating humanity. Open it. Say it. You don't need
Yes.
to be, you don't need to agree with people. That is not the essence. The essence is you are a human being. You have a different perspective. Say it the way you see it.
You've heard the expression pay it forward. So I've changed it to say it forward. Please say it forward. Please, because it matters. It matters more than you know. There are people out there waiting to hear whether it's a saga to success or how to do dishes better. If you have a skill of any kind, you're the expert at it. Share your knowledge. You would be surprised probably at how many people want to buy a book on the game of solitaire, even though we all know how to play. You'd be surprised at the people who are inspired by the struggle to triumph, or just the left brain stuff. Like, one guy has a theory on changing jobs quickly, and that's completely against what they've taught us, right? They always said stay at the job for a long time and build history, right? He says no, you should change jobs every year, gather the skills, and then advance. And so I named the book Job Hop to the Top. And you like that?
The other day I was talking to my wife. We were saying, because I hope to do some project in Nigeria that, of course, I'm already doing. I'm writing a series of memoir about my people, where I'm coming from,
Oh,
because some people might say, oh, there is already a lot of books out there, but it's not true. That we have too few books, in my view, because there is no book yet about my village. So what is people in my village can find a book to read about themselves?
that's
There is
it.
no book about my father. Who said the life of my father is not worth talking about? So there is a lot of things that we can still talk about, write a
Yes.
book about.
Yes. Absolutely. It
So
matters.
the story matters, no? Because imagine if you were just like talking about the food we eat, a different perspective of it, in that you have a way of cooking that is different from maybe the next neighbor. It might be the same food, but what about the romance around it, the thing that you do, the what the Italian would call the contorno, no? Meaning all the little things around it that you do, the dance around it that you do. Not everybody does that. By you saying it, you give the world the opportunity to see the same thing, but from a different perspective.
I love
That
that.
is that is lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
please
that.
go. Go, go. You want to say something there? Go. I want to say we are here to just share.
Okay, one of the other compelling things to do, a hook that will sell your book, is if you keep it short and simple. Not every book is meant to be that way. I mean, we've seen big fat science fiction books and that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. But what you want to do is have a book. It's called a short read. Now, listen, people are busy, right? So that's why audiobooks are so popular. That's another great way to sell your book, is have an audiobook produced, because a lot of people get their learning through their ears these days instead of their eyes. But what I've found is that having a book that's under 100 pages gets finished. In fact, this client, this book, just the other day, I'm not trying to advertise, I'm just trying to point out, it's a
Go
small
ahead.
it's a small book. And it's this is in print, it's 50 pages, in hardcover, but she in paperback, it's 70 pages. What happened for her, she was launched on Tuesday. She's #1 bestseller in all categories. And what happened was so cool. A guy got the book, her book, was able to finish it like that, and then did a review that blew both of us out of the water. And all of that has happened this week in a matter of 3 days. So when you write a short read that has impact, well, I call it a short read that readers love to read. It makes a difference. You want them to finish your book so that the end becomes the beginning, so then they can find you and work with you, or just applaud you, whatever it is that you want your book to do for you and
that's,
them.
that's lovely. Now, tell me more about the business of book writing. Now, we know that for your book to succeed, you need to consider the title and how you are wording the things. Now, the book is written. How do you go about the marketing?
Okay, so one of the things that I love to do, even before we get too far, is I ask them to write. This is an exercise that everybody can do. I insist. It's called 5 rave reviews. And what I want them to do is to write out imaginary reviews of their book. That's going to tell me, like, helping them to write their Amazon description, for instance. I'm pretty Italian today, aren't I? I'm talking with my hands.
You're welcome. Buongiorno.
Uh, so yeah, those reviews are going to indicate really what that book is about, so that when what they want it to be about, it's usually a preliminary before you write, but you can do it afterwards. The point is, it gives somebody like me. So not every writer is good at marketing copy. Okay, ghostwriters or assistant writers and editors, they can put down a story, but that doesn't mean they're good at marketing copy or sales copy. And as a book producer, I happen to have those skills. And so one of the best ways to get your book sold on Amazon is, in the opening of your book description, either have somebody write it, or you, whatever, write up that this book is funny, this book is impactful, this is one of a kind, because people are scanning. They're scanning quickly, and you want
Mhm.
to you want to grab them with that first paragraph so that they can't let go. Okay. The next thing that's going to happen is they're going to click into that window, that Amazon sample preview window. It's about 20 pages long. If you're smart, what you'll have done is what I call front loading, telling some really compelling story or funny stuff, images like I did in my book, that make people laugh and see what's coming next. That first 20 pages that Amazon puts out there is so vital to selling your book. Don't drag your feet in the front end, because it will make a difference. And then your back cover. Now, these may not be the tips you were looking for marketing and sales of your book, but honestly, if these things aren't in place, well, It's going to impact your sales. It just will. You want to have the back cover be really compelling. And there's different ways to have somebody write your back cover. Please do. Please have somebody else write your back cover. It's marketing copy, and it needs to really register with the avatar. So you want to have a marketing minded writer do that. The other way that really makes a difference in selling your book is becoming a bestseller. And it becomes a foundational piece that you'll have for the rest of your life. It sounds great when you're introduced on stage. Welcome, #1 international best-selling author. It really does give your book an angle that gives you the edge out there. Some podcasts won't even have you on if you're not a best-selling author. There's that. So that's another marketing tip for selling your book, is getting on the air.
How do you become a bestseller? Let's share your experience.
Well, I work in an association with someone who does that for people. It's a total done for you program. And I have purposely covered my ears and my eyes and said, I don't want to know how you do your magic. Just do it. And he guarantees it. So that's really his way. Other people have systems, but it's not my thing. I have seen that people can do it by a DIY, where they can just tell everybody to go at 10 a.m., go get my book. And that will likely register the book with the Amazon algorithm. It depends on the categories they're in, though. It just depends. If they're not placed in the right category, like Lisa Nichols, the motivational speaker, was placed in a category alongside Brene Brown and Oprah Winfrey. Her book did not do what it was supposed to do because of that. So, that's got
The
everything to.
competition is too strong.
Yes, you got it.
Now, you said hook that sells books, something like that, no? Hook that sells book.
Books that
What do
sell
you,
books.
yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, those hooks are some of the things we've talked about with a compelling title. If you have a weird title, make sure you have an explainer subtitle so people know what's going on. But really, it's the marketing that I know the most about is podcast marketing. And when you're interviewed on podcasts, which is often for free, more than likely, you want to really just bang it right out of the gate. You want to open up, and the typical question is, so why did you write your book? And so I train people to open their mind and say, let's start with something startling, or a mission statement or a benefit statement, not like, oh, well, I've always wanted to write a book. No, 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 no. Why did you write your book? Well, nobody believed me, but I found this. Now that's going to make podcast listeners go, what? Nobody believed you about what? They're going to listen. Or a mission statement. Why did you write your book? Well, after I watched my child wither away at the hands of the MDs, I found a solution, healed him, and I want to help other mothers. People will listen. That's a compelling hook that sells your book. Believe me, it's a unique angle to come out of the gate. So tell us who you are and how you show up in the world. Well, I'm a mom in St. Louis with 4 kids. Snooze. No, 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 no. You don't want to do that. Nobody wants to hear that. Their time is valuable, and they can change the channel quicker than you can change your mind. So you want to come out of the gate saying, you know what? I've been married far too long for this man to be doing this, and I figured a way for women to take care of themselves when they got a controlling husband. Bam. Going to listen to that, aren't you? That's going to sell books.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah.
All right. Now, looking at the different book that you have helped people to write or to market, which one would you say is the most interesting one for you, and why?
That's a great question. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. So Kicking Karma's Ass, this book, this is a memoir. And she's in construction, 30 years in construction, a lady from Jersey, very tough, solo business owner after her husband died, and she lost 1.25 million in the process of his cancer and her business folding. So it's a fascinating story. It took a lot of time. What was interesting for me as the writer was that she really wasn't exactly emotionally available to tell me how she felt back then. She would just be like, I cried. I'm like, okay. So I had to actually pull on acting skills that I have and become her and imagine and then create scenarios. So it's creative nonfiction. People often wonder, how the heck do you have that? Creative nonfiction looks like this. There's certain facts and insights to share, but there's a creative way that you can wrap them all together. And that's what I did with her over and over again, is I was able to literally become Patty and create scenarios and assume her identity, attitude, all that. In fact, people here in Tennessee were like, you sound like you're from Jersey. And I said, yeah, that's where this client's from. I've been talking to her a lot. I picked up the accent. What can I say? So it was really fun to do her book. A lot of work, but it was really fun. And the solitaire book, I really enjoyed that too.
Which book have taught you maybe the best lessons so far in your craft, in your work? Because sometimes all of them are not the same now. All the work that all the different clients that you're working with, maybe writing the book for them, they are not the same. Some of them you learn from, some of them they teach you things. So help me understand. What have you learned along the way, looking at this different work?
One of the hardest things I had to do was to write, has been to write books that I don't understand the content. In fact, this one, the ABCs of LGBTQ, I still don't get a lot of this. So it really pulled on me personally to be able to help the author to convey what she wanted to say to newbies. She said, that's why I picked you, because you don't have a clue. And I said, yeah. I said, if I don't understand what you're trying to say, you can bet nobody else will either. Help me out, sister. And so it was, I mean, it was a lot of work and to wrap my head around these concepts. And it's not my thing. It's not my world. It's theirs. And I was just there to help her convey what she was born to say. Right. So I had to learn how to put aside. I mean, that's a writing style too, is we have to put aside our own voice and allow and make sure that the author's voice is the primary voice, not the writer. I know one woman who hired a ghostwriter from England, and she's from Wisconsin. And Wisconsin sounds like this. Okay, I really did a bad job. And she said her book sounded like an old British man wrote it. And I was like, didn't you check in? Didn't he give you copies? Didn't you like have some meetings? I guess not. She said her book sounded like an old British man wrote it, which was true. Like, a true writer can take on your voice and really echo that on paper. And that in itself is an exercise. It's a great question you ask. It is always different with everyone. And that's why I like it so much. Beginning,
That's
middle, and next.
that's great. That's great. All right, now listen. You've spoken a lot about what you do. Now people are interested. They want to get to meet you or to work with you. Tell them how to reach you.
Oh, thank you. Thirdpartyinsights.com. That's where I'm a project consultant and I help people to get really quick fixes. Got a lot of resources in here that in these little microburst sessions. So there's a contact page on there. You can see what that's all about. You can also contact me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Lonnie out there. So it's linkedin.com/Lonnie. And yeah,
That's
that's it.
lovely. Now, in a very brief few seconds, what would be your final thought here? Conclude it.
Please convey what you were born to say. It matters. There's somebody out there waiting for you to share your story. Somebody needs you. You just don't know it yet, but they'll be glad you showed up.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation, the sharing, and the value that you added here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi podcast and share with your friends who might need it. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.